Okay, great. So let's now go ahead and let's discuss the question. The question says that which of the following describe the reason root cause analysis should be conducted as part of an incident response. So incidents means that some sort of an activity is going on, right? Something has, you know, diverted from a respective normal behavior. There is a virus attack, there is a ransomware attack, there is a malware attack. Something has gone wrong in your respective organization, right? That is exactly what an incident is all about. So what really happens is that you have a response for that respective incident, correct? Okay, so how would you react to that particular situation? Let's say, for example, if your organization faces up a ransomware attack, how would you respond to that? Do you going to contain it? Are you able to eradicate it? What kind of tool you will use? Which respective teams you have for that analysis? All that comes under this particular category of incident response. Okay, so we have a lot of options. Let's explore it up, right? Which should be the root cause analysis when we should be conducted in that thing. Okay, so first is to gather, just a minute, guys. To gather indicator of compromise. Okay, for the investigation. Okay, this can be a reason. Fine, but remember always, whenever you are preparing for the security plus or any CompTIA certificate, keep this thing in mind, in guys, that you have not to select the correct answer, but the most appropriate answer you have to select out of the following. It means that out of the following, you have to not select the most correct answer, but the most appropriate answer. Okay, and till the time it's not mentioned in the question by itself, that you have to go and mention up, like in the question it's not given it up two or three or four, whatever it is. Till the time by default you will select only one option. Okay, so it says that which of the following describe the reason for root cause analysis, right? Okay, for the incident response together indicator of the investigation. Okay, this can be to discover which system has been infected. No, not for this. To eradicate any traces of malware on the network. This is not as well. To prevent further incidents of the same nature. This looks the most appropriate answer. So the correct answer is going to be D in this case. Okay. Now, guys, this is the next question. Fine. The 18th one. Take your time, read the question, and reply in the chat with the proper explanation that why you consider A, B, or C as the right answer. The question says that a company prevents direct access from a database administrator workstation, right? The company prevented direct access from the database administrator workstation to network segment that contained database server. Fine. Which of the following should a database administrator use to access the database server? So it means that there is a respective database server. You have this DS database server, and this respective database server, we won't be specifically putting it up in an isolation, right? We are cutting it up from the rest of the world. Why? Due to the security reason, right? I do not want at any point in time so that any another person should have an access to this particular database. Okay, so if let's say for example a person is there, when he makes a direct connection with the respective database, he is denied. Correct? Okay, so which of the following the data administrator to should use in an order to access a respective database? See, the traditional way is not going to work. You or any client, when he make up a request, a straightforward request to this respective database server, which is kind of cut from the network, in that kind of a situation, what's going to happen is that you will not be provided the access. So what we have is that we have something which is called by the name of a jump server. Jump server really helps you a lot in this thing. Okay, just let me draw this particular part. If this is your respective database into a segment, and you cannot go by the traditional way in which a client would be directly able to access it up, this is you will not be able to do it up. So what you do is that you establish something which is called a jump server in between. Okay, you make up a connection with that, and that jump server directly takes you to this respective database. Okay, This is just an overview. This I'm not going to do much more in depth about it, which kind of an algorithm and how the configuration really looks like. But this is just an overview. So if you, let's say for example, in your respective organization, in your network, there is some resources you have deployed up, right, which are in a secured zone, and you want to access them, you have something which is called the jump server for that. Okay, to access any kind of a resource which is present in a secure location. Fine. Okay. Because any resource that is deployed in a secure location, direct access will be restricted. The only way you will be able to access the respective resource is through the jump server. Okay, great. Now there is another one you have. So okay, so as per the question, jump server fulfills this respective idea. But I have told you up that it's great that you explore the other option as well. What are the other options we have? We have the radius. Okay, what is the radius? Radius is kind of a thing, right? A protocol which is used for the authentication. Okay, so that's not going to happen here. And then there's something which is called an HSM device. Perfect. So we have something which is called the HSM device, right? Hardware Secure Module Device. And this, what this device does is that this device has, it can store lots of things, right? Particularly, it's used in the cryptography. And this particular HSM device is used to store your respective private keys specifically. Okay. You can never say that the HSM device is used to store any media file. That's not how it works. The HSM device, guys, is solely used to store any kind of private keys. Okay. And one of the characteristic property of this particular HSM device, guys, is that the moment the HSM device get to know that there is a hacker and the hacker is trying to hack into it, what the HSM device would be doing is would be wiping out every possible key that is present there. Okay, so you can say that this HSM device is hack proof. So it's a great and a golden standard when it comes to the security of your respective private keys, but that is not what's asked in the question. Okay, great. So HSN devices, guys, also not the correct answer here. Now let's explore the other one. We have something which is called the load balancer. Load balancer, guys, is there to distribute the traffic. Let's say, for example, if this is your one server, and what happens is that the server is getting it up or being bombarded by multiple traffics in place. So what can happen is that at some point in time, this server will become overwhelmed. Okay. So what we have is that we can set up something which is called by the name of a load balancer. So what is a load balancer? This is a kind of a device you have in place, and this, let's say for example, this is server 1, S1, and this is another server which is called the S2, server 2, correct? Now when the traffic comes to this respective, just a minute, let me change the color of my pen. Okay, when the traffic comes to, guys, this respective load balancer, in that kind of a situation, this is, let's say for example, LB load balancer, it will be redirected to either to the server 1 or to the server 2, correct? That is how the architecture is all about. So in this kind of a situation, what's happening is that the pressure upon one single server is drastically reduced, right? You're distributing the traffic there, incoming traffic, among multiple servers in place. You can have 2, 4, 5, 10, a plenty of them, right? That's the thing. That's the whole sole purpose of a load balancer, is to distribute the incoming traffic. And in this case, what happens is that the one single server does not face all the pressure. Okay, great. So as asked into the question, the correct answer, guys, is going to be a jump server. Okay, great. And I see most of you have given the correct answer as well. Perfect. Now, guys, let's move to the next question. This is, guys, the next question. Please go through it. The question says that an organization's internet facing website was compromised when an attacker exploited a buffer overflow, right? Which of the following should the organization deploy to best protect against similar attack in the future? Okay, so whenever you can see it up, right, in the question by itself, it's mentioning it up that what kind of an attack it's talking about. It's talking about a buffer overflow attack, right? Okay, and say a internet facing website was compromised, correct? Okay, So that's the first thing we have in place is that we have this NGFW, right? Next generation firewall. Okay, so this next generation firewall is kind of a firewall we have in place which has much more capabilities than the traditional one. Let's say, for example, this network next generation firewall can perform, deep packet analysis, and it can access the content as well. Let's say, for example, a packet is going on, so what is in that particular packet that can also be analyzed by this particular NGFW, next generation firewall, right? Which is traditionally not present there, right? And then, so this is definitely not the correct answer, right? Okay, because remember, this has nothing to do with the packet, IP address, MAC address. Here is an attack that has taken place, which is a buffer overflow attack. And this is mostly a web based application attack. So the solution for that would be a web application firewall. This WAF would be the proper implementation to resolve this particular issue. WAF, correct? For this buffer overflow attack. Then we have the SSL Taylor certificate. This is kind of for the authentication part. Okay, every website, guys, which needs, let's say, for example, would be having up this SSL TLS certificate. And then there is something which is called the SD-WAN, software defined WAN VF. Okay, that technology that simplifies the management of the WAN in place. Okay, instead of relying the traditional way where we used up the hardware part, in the SD-WAN we depend upon centralized software, and using that particular software we are able to manage all of our infrastructure or all of our WAN. Okay, so as per the options given it up, the correct answer is going to be the web application firewall. Okay, great. So yes, the web is the correct answer. Now let's go and explore the next question. This is the next question. Please go through it. In some of the responses, guys, I'm seeing it up that you have given only one answer, right? In some of it. Remember this thing, the first thing I told you about in the question by itself, they are mentioning it that you have to choose at least two correct answer, right? Okay, so this would be written up in your respective question that okay, you have to select A, you have to select B, you have to select C, whatsoever it is. Oh, sorry, you have to select one, two, or three. How many are correct answer? You have to select out of the following. Like in this particular question, it's specifically written it up after the end of the question that choose any two out of the following. Okay, so that's the thing. Correct. So let's read the question. The question says that several employees receive a fraudulent text message from someone claiming to be a chief security officer. The message says that I am in an airport right now with no access to the email. I need you to buy a gift card for Employees Recognition Award. Please send the gift card to the following email address. Which of the following are the best response for this respective situation? Correct? Okay. The first is cancel current employee recognition gift card. Okay, this could be. Then we have add a smishing exercise to the annual company training. This is definitely the I would be selecting this one in place. Okay, super good, correct. Then you have the another option because it's given up. You have to select the two. Okay, and always for one more thing that you have to always make up a habit to go through all the, we can say, respective options in place. Correct? Okay, so here we say that in the C option, it says issue a journal email warning to the company. Okay, having a CEO change the phone number, this is not a great idea, right? Till the time you do not have a proper evidence, this is definitely not going to be the case. And then we have the E, conduct a forensic investigation on the CEO phones. Again, practically not possible, right? It's not easy to convince a CEO of an organization or a higher authority in an organization to go directly to him, right? Because someone in your organization received a fraudulent email and just go ahead and ask him, sir or ma'am, can you please provide your respective phone? We want to provide, you know, we want to perform digital forensic into a respective device. Okay. And in an organization, multiple employees you have, right? Let's say 500, 2,000. So every day, if someone is facing some sort of smishing attack or a phishing attack, you cannot directly go to the CEO multiple times in a day and just say, I want to just check your phone, please. That definitely what would not be a great idea. Okay, So then we have the last, implement mobile device management. Okay, this could be also a good option, right? Okay, but if you look out of the following, remember this thing, like implementing a mobile device management, the F part is also a good option. Okay, but remember we have to select the best of the best, and because we have only two options to select two. Okay, so I would say A is definitely the correct answer, right? This is definitely I will be using it up. Okay. If I would be in the situation that to add up a smishing exercise to a annual company training part in place, because training your employees is one of the first security check you're putting it up in your respective organization. Okay. If the employees of the organization are well aware about what is a phishing is, how it really looks like, what is type of squatting, what's a water remote attack, just a basic thing. All the department, I'm not just saying about the technical department because they're already aware about it at some point in time, but the sales department, the marketing department. So it's a great idea to train annually to them in place, right? Okay, or I would say not annually, but like just quarterly or once in a 6 months. That would be good, because this the cyber security, this thing is continuously changing in place. 1 year, I would say that would be a much fine. But yeah, B would be the one of the my own choice. Fine. Let's see the second option that I want to look for is the C one. The C says issue a general email warning to the company. Okay, that's great as well, because you get to know that what, the email that I have received, someone else can also receive. I am very well about that this is kind looks like this is a fraudulent email. But let's suppose this email is exactly sent to a salesperson. The probability that a sales individual would not be aware so much about the cybersecurity is pretty high, correct? Till the time in your respective organization there is a proper training provided to other departments as well. That if it is, then it's super good. But most of the organizations are not so well enough or well informed, right? That they kind of provide this kind of a trainings in place. Okay, so definitely for sure, what I will do is that I will be flagging up an alert and saying it up in my company that this respective email address is malicious, and definitely for sure then the respective technical guys can be investigating into it in place, right? And blocking it, finding out the respective source from where it is originating. Are other member of the company are also affected with that? Has someone either fallen into a trap and has submitted some link or an access code into it? Those kind of things in place. So it's a great idea. So if we have to select any one out of the following, sorry, two, right? Because it says choose two, the B and the C is the perfect choice. Okay, here we are. Perfect. Now, guys, let's move to the next question. Please keep habit of just seeing it up this thing. Like in this case it says choose, so that's why we choose two one. Otherwise, if there was no mentioning of whether you have to select two or three, okay, in that kind of situation you would have gone for selecting only one correct answer. Okay, and if let's suppose if in a situation I have to select the one correct answer, I will be going with the B. Let's suppose if this is removed, right? Okay, and now by default I have to select one answer, I would be saying B is the most appropriate answer. That adding a smishing exercise to the annual company training is the most best answer, best way to tackle this particular issue. Fine? Okay, great. So now let's guys let's move to the next question. This is the next question, guys. Please go through it. The question says a company is required to use certified hardware when building a network. Okay. Which of the following best address the risk associated with procuring counterfeit hardware? Fine. So, what are the the best ways to procure a respective hardware? Okay. So first is a thorough analysis of the supply chain. Okay, I would consider this as answer as well, but let's explore the other one as well. Okay, a legal enforceable corporate acquisition policy. Okay, fine. A right to audit clause in vendor contracts and source. Fine. And in-depth penetration testing for all suppliers and vendors. Okay. I would say that out all the answers are absolutely correct. Correct. So let's say, for example, what happens is that what you can do is, it's saying it up that you want to procure a respective piece of an hardware for your respective network in the organization. And as for the option given, I can say that all are absolutely correct, that you can put up an audit clause, right? Okay, enforce corporate acquisition policy, in-depth penetration testing, supply chain. But if you have, because it's not mentioned in the question that you have to select two, three, you have to select the one. Okay, and which is out of the following, right? Which would be the most appropriate answer? So let's explore that. The first is says a thorough analysis of the supply chain. Okay. So guys, any idea whatsoever what is actually a supply chain is all about? Let me explain to you what a supply chain is. Correct? Okay. Tell me guys, let's say for example, if this is my respective system, right? You can imagine like it's like your respective laptop or your system, your desktop or your mobile phone, whatever it is. Correct? Okay. Let's suppose this is Dell. This laptop or this desktop belongs to the company Dell. Guys, tell me, what are the different components that are present in your device, whether it's your desktop or whether it's your laptop, in the context of hardware? What are the different things? So these are things we have in place, correct? Okay, now tell me. So we have this thing in place. Now I have, let's suppose we have a processor. Okay, guys, tell me, does Dell make this processor? Processor is a very important, right? It's the brain of the system, correct? Whether it's a laptop, whether it's a desktop. Tell me, does Dell makes the processor? Exactly. It does not. Okay. We have the Intel and the AMD, as Sanjay has rightly mentioned it up. These are the two giants that create these respective we can chipset, right? Okay, with the respective different generations in place. So the processor is either created by the Intel and the AMD. Okay, fine. Then we have something. So this is kind of a processor you have. Then what you have, another one you have, let's say for example, is your respective hard disk. Okay, guys, tell me, does Dell creates the hard disk? What are the leading providers when it comes to creation of the hard disk or the SSD, guys? Like there is Kingston, there is Western Digital, okay, there is Samsung, fine, yeah, Seagate, correct, perfect. So these are some of the very big organizations which are the top vendors in creation of hard disk or the SSDs. Okay, perfect. What else we have? We have the motherboard. Okay, guys, tell me, does Dell, exactly, Toshiba as well, perfectly, okay. So then let's say for example we have the motherboard as well, which is definitely a very important component of your entire hardware segment in your respective machine. So does Dell creates this respective motherboard? No, right? It does not. Okay, there are other vendors as well which create this particular motherboard as well. So you see that all these components, there is Asus, right? There is Intel, and there is others as well, right? Exactly, MSI, right? Just come skip from my mind. Akshat, that's definitely correct. MSI. So these are all the components we have, and all these component guys collaborate together, right? And they all come together, and what they form is that they form the hardware segment of your respective device, whether it's your laptop or whether it's your desktop. So you see that there is a supply that should be maintained, correct? If this is a Dell laptop or a desktop, it will be getting up the processor from the Intel. Okay. If it wants a hard disk or the SSD, over which the respective data of the customer would be installed, as well as the operating system would be installed as well. So that should be also provided, let's say for example from Samsung or Toshiba. Then let's say for example we have the motherboard, super important component of your entire hard disk segment. That is, let's say for example, provided by MSI. So you see that there are multiple different vendors that are providing their respective products to this company the Dell, and then Dell is assembling it together by itself. Dell does not create any of the components, neither the processor, neither the hard disk, neither the you can your motherboard, nor the RAM as well, right? We have multiple different providers which create the RAM as well, which is also a very important component of your hard disk or of your system in place. Okay, so this is guys a called supply chain. Okay, so if let's say for example here is a processor, fine, and let's suppose this processor or this company, let's say it's Intel, which is providing up this processor to Dell. They have a agreement, okay, $1 million agreement they have in place. And let's say, for example, Intel faces some kind of an issue, right? Shortage of resources, this and that, restriction, compliance, a lot of things can go wrong there. And let's say, for example, Intel faces some sort of an issue. So definitely they will be not be able to provide the processor, correct? And what will happen is that the entire production is stuck. Okay, Dell does not do not have new chipset or do not have new uh, processors because the provider, the supply chain is completely stuck. There could be multiple reasons why it is so, but what's actually happening in the real life is that the processor are not being provided to Dell, and Dell cannot proceed further with the creation or manufacturing of you know the respective laptops in place, and then definitely for sure they're going to face the losses. So this is called the supply chain attack. What's happening in this particular situation is that nowadays there is no organization which is creating all the components. They are at some point in time relied upon someone. Let's say, for example, one of the biggest giants we have, which is the Apple, right, which has one of the very famous product, which is called the iPhone. The iPhone is not created by the Apple by itself. The app, the Sony creates that respective cameras and ship it to Apple, and then Apple integrates it with their respective systems in place. Let's say, for example, if today Sony faces any sort of a ransomware attack or some issues arise there, right? Or let's say, for example, there is compliance issues, right? The US government makes up a law in place that from now onwards, Apple is not going to, or any US based company is not going to use a product of uh, Korea, right? Or Japan. So in that kind of situation, what will happen is that then definitely Apple will be facing a shortage because they are not going to launch up a smartphone or the iPhone into the market till the time they do not have this respective camera issue resolved, correct? So this is called the supply chain, and you see that this is the option that suits it best, a thorough analysis of your supply chain. This thing is the most ultimate answer. Why? Because see, the legal enforceable corporation acquiring policy also comes under the supply chain, right? The audit clause also comes under the supply chain. The in-depth penetration testing all of also comes under the supply chain, right? So if you have this particular, a thorough analysis of the supply chain, this penetration testing, audit, corporation acquisition policy, all will be part of it. So in this case, a supply chain, a thorough analysis of your respective supply chain is important. Okay. And definitely what they do is that these different organizations, let's say for example, if there is Apple on one hand, that is completely relied upon Sony to provide up that particular cameras in place, correct? Okay, so what will they do is that at regular interval of time they will be performing the cross auditing on each other. Apple would be performing the auditing on Sony, and Sony will be performing the auditing on the Apple as well, right? So that they get a better trust upon their respective partners as well, right? And let's say for example, if Sony gets to know that okay, there is some kind of loopholes are there in the Apple ecosystem, they will be then just telling to the Apple that what, we have find out this kind of a vulnerability or the issues in your respective supply chain or in your systems or in the monitoring tools. Please resolve it so our respective supply remains in a healthy state. Okay, so the correct answer for this particular question is guys going to be the A, right? The supply, and all these B, C, and D options will fall under it, right? Okay, so in this particular question was also a kind of a same situation where all the answers are correct. Okay, A, B, and C and D are all correct, but remember the question by itself, what had done is that they have mentioned up that you have to, okay, so that by default we have to assume that because in the question it's not mentioned that you have to select only one. Okay, so the A is going to be the correct answer. Okay, guys, so this is the next question, guys. Please go through it. Which of the following is required for an organization to properly manage its uh, restore process in the event of a system failure? Okay. So, guys, anyone, any sort of an idea what the IRP is all about? It stands for Incident Response Plan. Exactly, right? So something happens in the respective organization, how you're going to deal with that. If there is a ransomware attack, there is a cyber attack, and how are you able to respond to it? That's what we have in the IRP, Incident Response Plan in place. Are you able to contain it, eradicate it? All this comes into the Incident Response Plan in place. Okay, great. So as the question is set up, which are the following required an organization to properly manage its its restore process in the event of a system failure? IRP would not be such a good option to select from. Okay, then we have the B, which is called the DRP, Disaster Recovery Plan. Okay, this is a good option, right? This can be a thing that can restore the process in a case of a system failure. Okay, DRP, Disaster Recovery Plan. And then we have the, okay, so this could be a good answer. Fine, let's keep it aside. Okay, for a moment, but keep a habit to explore the other option as well. Then you have, guys, something which is called the RPO. Okay, guys, any idea what an RPO is all about? Exactly, it's a recovery point objective. Correct, right? Okay, and what that means is that it talks about the maximum amount of data that an organization, guys, can tolerate, right? Or a maximum amount of data loss that an organization can tolerate after any sort of a cyber attack or any kind of an attack that's taken place. Let's talk about the RPO, recovery point objective, the maximum amount of data loss that an organization can tolerate. Okay, so that's the thing, but the RPO does not fit this particular equation. Fine, we have to think about that in an organization how I can restore things. RPO is just a parameter to tell you about that, okay, how well your infrastructure is ready to deal with any kind of issues in place. Okay, so RPO is not the correct answer. And then we have the SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. This is a kind of a thing which we use it up, right? No, it's a software development lifecycle we have in place. Okay, and what that means is that it's kind of a thing into the production environment. This SDLC. If you had heard about something which is called by the name of DevOps, in that we use this SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. Right? Each software has a kind of a life thing in place, right? From the creation and the code merger, then if let's say for example if there is a bug in the code, then you just rectify it up, then you send it to the production environment, then they test that is the respective piece of code is stable or not. Okay, those kind of things. So all that falls under SDLC, Software Development Life Cycle. Okay, great, perfect. So the correct answer for this particular question, guys, is going to be DRP, right? Data recovery precision, right? Okay. So the question says, which of the following vulnerabilities is associated with installing software outside of manufacturer approved software repositories? Okay. The first is something which is called by the name of jailbreaking. See, the jailbreaking concept means that, let's say, for example, in your respective, you are the root user of your respective mobile phone, correct? No doubt about that. You are the root user. It means that you can perform any kind of an activity. You can perform delete, modify, all this kind of an activity. You can perform it up with ease. But what happens is that, uh, definitely, there are certain files and folders in your respective mobile phone which you not be able to delete it up. Even if you are the root user, you own that device. Let's say there is camera that you have, correct? You cannot go to the camera software and uninstall it. Okay, that's not how it works. Because what happens is that the developer has created up a security system you can set up, or a security layer, and then inside that particular security layers, right, or the secure area, these certain applications are there. Let's say, for example, camera applications, your respective calendars, okay, some other applications as well are created inside it. So even if you are the root user, still you cannot go and delete it up, correct? Because you're not authorized for that. Okay, when you perform jailbreaking, what you're trying to do is that you're trying to enter inside this secure area and then trying to delete these resources by itself. Okay, that is guys called by the name of jailbreaking. Okay, so a lot of danger are there when it comes to the jailbreaking part. What can happen is that, see, at the end of the day, these applications which were put inside the secure area by the developer, and was you, even if you are the root user, you are not allowed to have any sort of an access into it, fine. All those things, you know, why? Because these applications are super important, right? And let's say, for example, deleting this application can make your system, your environment unstable, and your entire system or your entire mobile phone or even the laptop can crash as well. Okay, so that's called the jailbreaking, entering the sensitive area where these applications are there, which are very important from the point of view of the architecture of that particular device. Okay. So definitely that's not the criteria. Then we have the memory injection part, where in memory injection, what you do is that you inject some malicious code. Okay. So this is also not the correct answer here. Fine. And then you have the resource reuse. So that is also not the correct answer. Okay. See, the question says about the vulnerability that is associated with installing a software. So resource reuse is not the correct answer, neither is a memory injection, nor is a jailbreaking. Okay, they are different concepts in themselves. So then comes the side loading. Side loading is fulfilling what the question says. Okay, so what is exactly a side loading? Let's say, for example, you want to, you know, play or use this particular application. But let's say the cost of this particular application is $500. Okay, on a subscription basis, let's say, for example. So that's a huge cost that you have to pay, or it's a one-time purchase. Let's say, for example, you pay 500 US dollars and you get the application license, and that's it. Okay, for a period of 1 year, and then you have to again renew it up. So that's a lot. So most of the people, what they do is that they, instead of going to the original, right, they will be going to some malicious website, and they will be either downloading the cracked version of that respective application in their respective system. But the problem in that kind of a case, right, is that sometimes the application has certain kind of, viruses, or I can say malwares, that get installed in your systems. So see, this viruses, this malware, this ransomware that get installed are not from the manufacturer side, correct? The manufacturer has not approved it. Okay, but because you are installing it from a malicious website, and like in the English we say it up, right, we have a proverb that there is no free lunch. Definitely, for sure, if you just go to the website, why would a website, or why do a telegram channel would be providing you a cracked version of a software which not normally cost you $500? Because that's the reason, because that particular, most of the time, those web series, those games, or whatever it is you're downloading it up, this cracked version of the software, you are installing the software which contains some malicious entities present inside it. So when you download this respective application from a malicious website, certain malicious entities like the virus, malware, ransomware, crypto malware get installed in your device, and that, you know that is not a good thing, right? And then they can eat up the space, they can delete file, modify file, all this kind of an activity they will be able to do in this case. Okay, correct. So what is the correct answer to this? The correct answer, guys, is going to be the side loading. And what's the recommendation? Okay, if I want to prevent my colleagues, or if my employees or my juniors devices from any sort of a side loading, the best part is that go to those websites, which are legitimate websites. Okay, and purchase proper license of those particular websites. Don't run behind the trojan, this malicious website in place. Okay, that could create a lot of problems for you. Okay, This is the side loading. Now, guys, this is the next question. Please go through it. Okay, so let's see what say the question says. Right. In the question, it says that a security analyst is reviewing the following logs. So these are the logs, right? And from a security point of view, guys, they are super, super important. Okay, so what the real log says that you can, if let's before jumping into the option part, let's first of all see what actually the log says. Okay, perfect. So here it says that at 10 a.m. what happens? The login rejected. Username was administrator. Password was Spring 2023. Okay, this is another one. That same username is Jamith. The password is Spring. So you see that the username is keep on changing it up, but the password remains the same. And yesterday we have talked about it, right? That what is actually it's the password Spring, right? With no other doubt in place and rightly mentioning it up. You guys, all of you have given the correct answer as well. The password Spring, guys, is the correct answer. Okay. So account forgery is there as well. Okay, what that means is that you are impersonating legitimate individual agency or authorities online for a fraud. That's called the account forgery. And then on the other hand, you have the pass the hash. So let's say, for example, you have a hash, fine, of your system or whatever it is. You're stealing those hashes and you are just reusing it. Okay, to authenticate or re-authenticate yourself. So pass the hash just means stealing up the hashes. Okay, great. So now, guys, let's move to the next question and see the password spraying is the correct answer. So, guys, this is the next question. Please go through it. Okay, so let's see what the question says. The question says that an engineer needs to find a solution that creates an additional layer of security by preventing unauthorized access to the internal company resources, right? We have already explored it up in today's session. Which of the following would be the best solution? The first is called the RDP server. Okay, so this is not the correct one in place. RDP server, guys, is there if you, let's say, for example, you want to connect, you know, to a server in place. Fine. So that's what we have, the RDP server. Okay, it is not there to prevent from any unauthorized access. That's not the job of the RDP server. Okay, great. So RDP server uses a RDP, protocol and use it up to have a connection. Fine. Okay. Then there is a jump server, definitely for sure. If there is a server and that server is hosted in a secure location, like this one, secure location. So in an order, direct communication, guys, would not be possible. So what happens is that you set up something which is called by the name of, this jump server, and then you make up a connection with the jump server. The jump server allows you to have direct access to the respective server in place. Okay, proxy server, absolutely not. See, the job in a layman language of a proxy server is that to forward your respective traffic on your behalf. Let's say, for example, if you are the client and this is a particular proxy, when the user make up a request to the proxy, fine, the proxy just pick up your request and forwards it to facebook.com. Okay, so it forwards it to the facebook.com. Fine, or any other website you can imagine it up. Correct. So in that kind of situation, what will happen is that the Facebook will get to know that okay, this request has been sent to me from this particular proxy. Facebook will never get to know that okay, this user Amit is sending up this particular request. Okay, so the Facebook replies back to this respective proxy. Proxy picks up the respective reply and give it to the user. Okay, so in this case, identity of the user is prevented. This is called proxy server you have. Okay, so this is also super great to protect your identity, but does not prevent any unauthorized access. It has nothing to do with that. Then we have something, guys, which is called by the name of an hypervisor. Hypervisor, guys, in a short and limited language, is kind of a piece of a software through which you do what you can use something which is called by the name of virtualization. Okay, that's what we have in the hypervisor. Okay, so the correct answer for this kind of situation, guys, is going to be, you know, a jump server. Fine. Okay, great. So guys, jump server is the correct answer. Now guys, this is the 26th answer. It's a 26th question. Please go through it. Okay, guys, so let's understand what's happening here. In the question, it says that a company web filter is configured to scan the URL for strings and denying access when matches are found. Which of the following search strings should an analyst employ to prohibit access to the non-encrypted website? Okay, that's written up. The non-encrypted website we have to protect this for. Okay, so encryption off. Okay, nothing it right. This one is does not also protects you, and this is just a port number, and this is what we have to protect it from the HTTP, right? Insecure way of communication. Because what happens is that generally when the A communicates with B, fine, in that situation, the, the communication that taking place, guys, in a plain language, right? The sending as well as the receiving is all in the plain text. Fine. So this is what we have. So in this particular situation, guys, rightly given up the answer, the correct answer is going to be the HTTP, which we have to protect, right? The non-encrypted website. Okay, perfect. So guys, this is the 27th question. The next question, please go through it. A company needs to provide administrative access to internal resources while minimizing the traffic allowed through security boundaries. Okay, so what does that? It access to the internal resources while minimizing the traffic allowed through the security boundaries. So what you want a restriction, right? You want to minimize the traffic. Let's say, for example, there is a server, and what you do is that you want to minimize the traffic through security boundaries. So, kind of security boundaries you want to keep it up so that the user would be minimized or restricted. Which of the following method is more secure? Out of the following, which of the method is the more secure? First is implement something which is called the bastion hosts. I would say, okay, that looks good, right? What is actually a bastion hold? Remember, in this case, right, the bastion hole is same like your respective jump server. And what they do is that, let's say, for example, there is a client who wants to access this respective resource, but which is inside a secure boundaries. What you do is that he cannot directly access it up. So there will be a respective bastion host, right? BH, the bastion host, which will already would be having up a connection with this respective, server in place. So instead of directly having up a connection with this respective server, the resource, what you do is that you make up a connection with the respective bastion host. Okay, you go to the bastion host, and then the bastion host has kind of a connection or a tunnel with the respective resource, and through this respective resource what will happen is that you can do what you can send your respective piece of information with this respective resource in place. Correct, that's the thing. So this is what happens. So best in host, guys, let you talk to this respective resource which is present, fine, this respective resource which is present into the internal boundaries. Okay, so directly the normally user would not be able to communicate. What happens is that you as a user would be going to the bastion host, and then the host would be taking you to this respective resource. Okay, that's what we have. Okay, so this is what we have. So okay, so A looks promising, but again what we have done is that we always keep this thing in mind. Fine, I just click into the link part, right, Kelly, and you will be getting it up. Okay, so here we are. Just here we and you click into this this bastion host part. It's pretty simple. You just directly go to the bastion host, and it will take you to that internal resource that is present there. Simple as that. Okay, then you have another one option, okay, which is called deploying a parameter network. Perimeter network is similar like to having up a DNS. The demilitarized zone has also another name which is called by the name of perimeter network. Exactly, correct. Okay, exactly. So what happens is that, see, in the normal layman language, always remember it up. Demilitarized zone is also called as by the name of a perimeter network is there. No, Miguel. Okay. So in this case, what happens is that you have this thing in place, the demilitarized zone, and demilitarized zone also has something which is called by the name of a parameter network. Okay, in the examination you get this parameter network, so don't get confused what this is all about. What it means is that it means the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. Okay, great. So let's say, for example, what happened in this kind of situation is that you, as so what the DMZ does, the demilitarized zone over this secure parameter network does, right? So what it does is that in this you are segregating your network. You're segregating it from internal network to an external network. Okay, so that's the DMZ. So it's a boundary that defines as an organization control. Okay, first lines of defense. Okay, and inside the DMZ, demilitarized zone, what you will do is that you will put all of your sensitive piece of an information inside it, the internal network. Okay, that's what we have, the demilitarized zone. So this is okay. This does not fulfill that particular part. See, because that it does not, minimize the traffic. Okay, great. In the DMZ, there is no traffic. Install the WAF web application firewall. This is not also not going to resolve that particular issue. WAF only resolve web application vulnerabilities. That's it. Okay, fine. So in this particular question, there is no mentioning of web application vulnerability. Fine. That's the whole interesting part. Okay, so WAF is also not going to be the correct answer. There is no buffer overflow, there is no SQL injection, there is no cross-site scripting, nothing. Okay, then it comes to something which is called by the name of single sign-on. See, single sign-on means that, let's say, for example, if you have account one, another you have account two, and then you have, guys, something which is called by the name of an account three, correct? And you have only one set of a credential. So using this credential means username and password, you are able to access this account, and this account, and that is called, guys, the single sign on. So this is also a very good thing, but the interesting part in this case is that, this definitely does not resolve our issue. So out of the following, right, options given it up, the Bastion host, guys, is the most appropriate. In short, what is a Bastion host? Remember it up. You cannot directly communicate with the internal resources of an organization. So what you have implemented up, you have implemented something which is called by the name of Bastion host. So the client or the administrator would be going to the Bastion host, and through the Bastion host, they will be making up a connection to the respective internal server. Okay, that's what we have. Now, guys, this is the next question. Please go through it. Just give me a minute. Okay, here we are. Right, the question says that a cyber operation team informs a security analyst about a new tactic malicious actors are using to compromise network. Okay, SIM alerts have not been configured. Which of the following best describe what the security analyst should do to identify this behavior? What it should do, right? See, the SIM alert has not been configured in this say. What's the best thing you can do? The first is digital forensics, right? Okay. But you are not getting anything, right? Because there is no alerts that's not been configured. So how would you investigate something which has not been there? Your systems has not detected something. Digital forensics only you can do only at a particular point in time. Fine. You know that something has gone wrong. Fine. But you see that the SIM alert has not been configured in this particular part. That is a big thing. Okay. So even if the security analyst. Okay. So this is a big problem. So SIM alerts, if they would have been configured, we will be getting a lot of information, the IP address, and then we can investigate further. But that is not possible here. So digital forensics is not the correct answer. Okay. Then comes the e-discovery, electronic discovery. So this is also a part of digital investigation, digital forensics. Okay, and this would also not be present here because the SIM alerts are not configured, right? Okay. Then we have the incident response. Fine. So incident response, guys, is also not going to be the correct answer. Fine. Okay. Then we have the another one which is called by the name of threat hunting. Exactly. See, if you read the questions once again, it says the cyber operation team informs the security analyst about the new tactic malicious actors are using it up to compromise the network. Same alert has not been set it up. So there is a general idea that now the attackers are using some new techniques in place to hack into the system, but your system alerts, right, okay, are not configured in this kind of a situation. So what is the thing in this situation, right? You are left with only one thing, which is called threat hunting, with an assumption, right, that you know what, something has gone wrong and I need to look into it, right? With an assumption. It's not there. Threat hunting solely based upon the hypothesis, not upon any logs or nothing like that. If there would be any, even a single piece of evidence that the system has been compromised, then definitely you will perform digital forensics, e-discovery, which stands for electronic discovery and storing up and securing the emails, right? And all the electronic informations. Okay, and you will be performing incident response, all this kind of an activity. But remember, threat hunting is completely upon the hypothesis that you know what, attackers are there, they have some new kind of tactics in place to hack into the systems. And what if the attackers are sitting in an infrastructure, right? Because we do not, our sim solutions are not up to date, they have do not have, proper configurations. So it's better to have an hypothesis and then look for those threat attack actors, right? So that's what we have. So this is what we have in the threat hunting part. So the correct answer, guys, is going to be the threat hunting. Okay. Now, guys, let's look to the next question. This is, guys, the next question. Please go through it. Okay, guys. So let's see the question. The question says that a company purchased cyber insurance to address item listed on risk register. Okay, which of the following strategy does this present? So first is accept risk acceptance. Risk acceptance means that, guys, to accept that okay, if I perform this particular activity, these are the risks and I accept that, I'm prepared for that. Correct, that's the risk acceptance. Okay, great. So you're accepting it, and then based upon those kind of risk, you are just preparing yourself as well. That's called a risk acceptance. Fine. Okay. Then there is something which is called by the name of uh, transfer, risk transfer. It means that shifting your respective risk uh, thing to someone else. Like say in this particular case of insurance, there is a guy or there is an organization which thinks that you know what, we can be attacked by any sort of a ransomware attack. There is always a risk for that. So what we do is that we go to an insurance company, and to that particular insurance company we purchase some kind of a cybersecurity insurance kind of thing in place. With this kind of a coverage, we get the protection that okay, if my organization faces up any sort of a cyber attack, and let's assume I get up a loss of $5,000, this thing will be covered with that respective insurance company. Okay, that's called a risk transfer. So previously, what was happening, if there is no this insurance in place, guys, what normally happens is that if the ransomware happens in my organization, or if there is any kind of attack happens in my respective organization, so I have a damages of $5,000. So that's will going, so definitely the organization is going to faces damages worth of $5,000. But what I did is that before even attack has taken place, I have gone to an organization and purchased up an insurance. And now if my organization faces up an attack and now I face a damages of $5,000, so what will happen is that those $5,000 would be providing that particular company to us. It's same like your health insurance. If I just go right now to this, or any person goes to the respective health insurance company, and say that you know what, I want to purchase up an health insurance. And what will happen, as a regular interval of time, I have to give it up a premium, something like $10, $20, $100, whatever it is, to that health insurance company. And let's say, for example, I meet with some kind of an accident, or that, or there is a health issue, something like that. What will happen in that particular situation is that whatever the bill is, let's say for example the bill is $100, $200, the insurance company will pay the bill. Okay, So the damages would be resolved by the someone else. Correct? That's what we have here. Risk transfer. So that's B looks a perfect answer. Okay, but let's see other as well. The C is mitigate to resolve that respective risk. Okay, if there is a risk, if there is a problem, the probability that something can go wrong, you're resolving it up. Okay, you're taking proper measures in place. And the D is to avoid the risk, to completely avoid it. Okay, that is the thing. Let's say for example, nowadays there is, it's a rainy season, right, particularly in India. So let's say for example, just if you are using up two wheelers in place, like particularly the motorbike, and you're using it, so there can be a probability 20%, 25% in a hilly station. If you're just riding up a bike in a speed of 50 to 60 in a rainy time, there can be a probability that your bike can slip up, right? Okay, and you can face injuries. That's a probability of 20 or 30%. So what you're trying to do is that if you get that particular idea, but you say that, you know what, my life is more precious than riding up a bike, I can take up a bus or a train or any other public vehicle, fine, I do not want to ride. So what you're doing, you are just avoiding it. So if you drive a bike, the probability that you can slip or get up injured is 20%. You avoiding this risk, and you're going up through a bus, something like that, where the risk is significantly reduced. So you're completely avoiding any kind of a task that can create problem for you or for your organization. Okay, perfect. That is called the avoiding the risk. So the correct answer, guys, is the risk transfer. Okay, guys. So this is the next question. Please, guys, go through it. Okay, guys. The question says that a security administrator would like to protect data on employees' laptop. Okay. Which of the following encryption technique should the security administrator use? So first is the partition encryption. Okay, so partition encryption, see, you have different partitions of your respective, logical partition: C drive, D drive, E drive. Correct? So the first one is the partition encryption, that encrypting a segment of that hard disk, like encrypting only the C drive, encrypting only the D drive. Okay, that's the first option we have. Okay, but here it says that you want to protect the data on employee's laptop. It is not talking about any sort of a partition. So this is not going to be the correct way. Then it talks about symmetric encryption, sorry, asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption is a type of an encryption which, in this you use two type of keys: public key and a private keys. Okay, one key is used for encryption, another one is used for the decryption part. Okay, super good, right? But what happens in this kind of a situation is that, in the asymmetric encryption, fine, this thing, it's protect the data onto the employee's laptop. So this is not the best way, I would say it up. We have to choose the way through which I can protect the data onto the employee's laptop. Correct? Okay. Asymmetric, I would say, is not the great idea. The full disk is. This is the most appropriate answer. The full disk encryption. Correct? Now you will say that, okay, Amit, why you're not saying B is the correct answer? I would say, in an order to perform this full disk encryption, you will use the symmetric encryption. Okay, so when I say that I will be using full disk encryption, correct, to encrypt to data into this particular laptop in place, in the underlying, I am using the asymmetric encryption only. I will be creating two keys: public key and a private key, and those keys would be used to for the encryption and the decryption of your respective data. So that is the reason when I select C, I am automatically selecting B as well. Correct? Okay, here. So that's why the most appropriate answer out of the following, guys, is going to be the full disk encryption. And we have the database encryption. It's for the database. And in this case, there is no mentioning of the database. It's all about the protecting the data of the respective laptop. Okay, guys.